You know what the #1 job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
Is to act like it didn't happen. They all do the same job.
They just gave P. Diddy 4 years. Say that again. For taking 27 asses. 4 years.
Now, because this is a lot of the personal footage of Diddy. It shocked a lot of people. And I know, 50, the way you run, this cannot be all that you have. Is there other stuff that you just have not shown?
Yeah, well, everything couldn't make it's only was 4 episodes.
Right.
So it was a lot. You had to pick and choose things. Like even in an area where he chooses to date people who he knows previously dated someone. He has a baby by a woman that was dating Tupac.
Wow.
To add to it, but we had to cut it down so he could.
For time.
Katt Williams just cracked the seal on 50 Cent's Diddy documentary, The Reckoning. And the word on the street is the real damage never made the cut. Names scrubbed, footage buried, powerful people shielded. Because what Netflix aired looks more like the clean version, and now Katt's naming names, starting with Kim Porter, officially pneumonia case closed. But the hood never bought that, not ever, because Kim wasn't just around. She was the mother of his kids, lived inside that world, moved through those rooms, knew what was really going on, allegedly didn't just attend the freak-off parties but helped plan some of them. And when you're that close, you see things. Things people don't want seen. And insiders like Jaguar Wright saying the timing of her death felt way too convenient, just poured gasoline on the whispers. So yeah, folks listening real close now.
Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said it was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms.
That's exactly why seeing Kim Porter reduced to a footnote didn't sit right with anybody. Because if anyone deserved a deep dive, it was her. And right after that, another name started circling the block, Ja Rule, who went public backing Diddy before the conviction, saying he was shocked, wishing him luck, claiming he never saw the violent or freaky side of those parties, like he was just passing through with blinders on.
You watching this Diddy trial?
I've been watching it. It's kind of nuts.
Don't tell me you've ever been to one of these FOs.
No, I ain't been to the FOs now. I've been to a regular Diddy party, yes.
You went to the white party?
Yeah, the good stuff.
Does any of this stun you, or are you like, yeah, kind of knew that?
Nah, it's all kind of shocking seeing it. You know, me knowing Diddy, what I know of Diddy, I'm looking at some of this stuff and I'm like, wow, I didn't know he was capable of some of these things. So it's kind of shocking to me.
But here's where it got messy, because Ya's story started sliding. First it was I was never there. Then it turned into okay, I was around, but I didn't do nothing. And the streets hate that kind of pivot, especially when old rumors and alleged footage start resurfacing. And when Gene Deal allegedly said he saw Ya and Diddy coming out of a room naked together years back, Ya called it a blatant lie and threatened lawsuits. Fair enough. But the question still hangs, which version is the truth? Because you don't go from never there to present but uninvolved without raising eyebrows. Not in a time where old tapes, old pics, and old witnesses keep crawling out. And then another name spun into the mix, Rasher Gray, the Empire star on the rise, until the story behind the scenes took a dark turn, with industry whispers saying he got pulled into circles way bigger than him way too early, and resurfaced claims from Terrence Howard and Jaguar Wright alleging Diddy, and even Will Smith played roles in his downfall.
See, they trying to see him out so he'll feel too embarrassed to file his lawsuit against Diddy for what Will and Diddy did to him. With Jaden and Justin present that tape.
He's reportedly suing, saying jealousy, sabotage, and psychological damage chewed him up and spit him out. And voices like Orlando Brown have hinted at the same pattern. Powerful men grooming talent, then flipping the switch once control slips. And not a single word of that made the documentary, not one, and that silence is loud. Then another name hit the air, Biggie. And this is where it gets real uncomfortable. Because before his own mysterious death, Diddy's former bodyguard Uncle Ron said straight up this wasn't East Coast versus West Coast. It was power, publishing, and control.
Jay-Z and Puffy wanted Biggie killed. Bottom line, you don't have to believe me, believe the facts. Here's a man that wanted to leave Bad Boy. He wanted to do his own thing. He mentioned several times how he was tired of being used in a that he was bigger than Bad Boy itself. Somebody, and we ain't gonna call no more names, dangled a bogus contract in front of his face so he wouldn't leave the company. How I know I was there. Another thing, Jay-Z wanted him out of the industry, period, so he could take over and be the biggest hip-hop artist around.
Ron claimed Jay-Z wanted Biggie gone so he could take that top spot. And according to Ron and Gene Deal, Diddy had even more reason, because Big was allegedly planning to leave Bad Boy and take his publishing with him. And when money and control get threatened, things get ugly.
You would get 100 people in the room, and out of the 100 people, probably 3 would say it was all right for Big to be in LA. 97% of those people would say he had no business in LA at that time. We all knew that. Why would Puff rent studio time? Come on, man, look, you gotta look at what people do, man. You know Pac just got killed. It ain't no kind of business Big was doing. Big couldn't even walk, he couldn't run. They was pushing him around in a wheelchair, brother. Why the hell would you rent studio time in LA for him to finish your album when you got your own studio, Daddy's house? Let's keep it a buck. Let's stop this bullshit, man.
Ron went even further, allegedly saying Diddy offered him 30 grand to take Big out just days before the murder, a claim that still rattles the room every time it gets repeated.
I was offered $30,000 to perform a hit on Biggie Smalls. March 1st of 1997, I was approached by Diddy to perform a hit on one of his artists. Finding out that he wanted all the rights to all his catalogs, I turned him down because I also found out that very night that Biggie had plans of leaving Bad Boy. Biggie should have never been in California to promote an album. With a broken fibula bone, who can barely walk, to go to another studio when Diddy has his own studio in New York.
Believe it or not, one fact keeps people talking. Diddy owned Biggie's publishing rights all the way until 2023, and that alone keeps the conspiracy breathing. Then Uncle Ron allegedly started talking to the feds. And weeks later he's dead. TikTok comments wiped clean, not proof, but enough to keep questions alive because the documentary barely touched it. And then the conversation slid straight to Tupac, a name that never stays buried, with 50 Cent lighting that fire for years, even back in 2006 when he dropped a diss saying Puffy knew who did it. And Pac himself saying in a 1995 Vibe interview he believed Diddy was connected to the shooting that nearly killed him. His words, not the internet.
So do you think Puffy was involved in the shooting?
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proof, things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows.
You know, when we go back to that in 1994, what do you think is the most important evidence from that?
To me, we don't have to look any more than Tupac's own words. He said when he got to the studio that night in 1994, Sean Combs and his entourage would not look at him.
Fast forward to Vegas after Pac's death, and Keith D gets arrested in 2023, claiming Diddy once put up $1 million bounty, a statement that reopened wounds that never healed.
Well, in fact, there was the rumor that after Pac got Puffy gave Zip $1 million that was supposed to be handed over, and Zip ended up keeping it. And I remember when I interviewed TK Kirkland, who was actually roommates with Zip at one point. They were that close. He actually said, yeah.
The Fed said that too.
He said that actually happened.
Then 50 admitted he cut Tupac-related tapes from the documentary, and that alone raised eyebrows, but he kept going, alleging Diddy had a child with one of Pac's ex-girlfriends, a claim that shook the room.
Well, the story that has circulated was that after Tupac got killed, Puffy allegedly gave the money to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
Let that sit for a second, because if that's true, it adds a whole new betrayal layer, someone close, someone trusted, benefiting after Pac was gone, and leaving Tupac out. The documentary wasn't quiet at all, but 50 promised more footage later, and now folks are wondering if those Tupac tapes will ever actually see daylight.
Now, because this is a lot of the personal footage of Diddy. It shocked a lot of people. And I know, 50, the way you run, this cannot be all that you have. Is there other stuff that you just have not shown?
Yeah, well, everything couldn't make it was 4 episodes.
Right.
So it was a lot. You had to pick and choose things, like even in an area where he chooses to date people who he knows previously dated someone. He has a baby by a woman that was dating Tupac.
Wow.
To add to it, but we had to cut it down so it could.
For time.
Another name started circling heavy, Jay-Z, the loudest omission of all. Because him and Diddy ran parallel empires for years. Same rooms, same parties, same power plays, and folks been whispering that bond went deeper than business.
Yeah. So are you coming out? I know next year is going to be a number 2. Season 2?
I just put it on YouTube.
I just put it on YouTube. Well, we can subscribe and get it. I love
Jaguar
it.
Wright called them peanut butter and jelly. Inseparable. And notice how Jay only started distancing himself once the RICO charges hit, already dodging one lawsuit tied to Diddy. But the streets are asking if that was just the first wave, because when systems crack, the people closest to the center usually feel it last, not never. And this ain't just Katt talking. Gene Deal and Jaguar Wright both say the documentary didn't expose a monster. It protected a system, and that's where it gets heavy.
Tell me something. When you have a peanut butter jelly sandwich, if it's just peanut butter, it's just peanut butter. If it's just jelly, it's jelly. When you put it together, it becomes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and the taste is undeniable.
You saying Diddy and Jay-Z is peanut butter jelly?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Gene Deal said what people saw was watered down on purpose, claiming he sat for nearly an hour with footage, photos, documents, first-hand proof, only to be sidelined. Allegedly told that 50 didn't actually control what went in or out despite his name being all over the marketing. And once Gene realized this wasn't about exposing everything but controlling damage, he walked away, saying too many powerful people would have been implicated if the real stories dropped.
A lot of people want to know why you wasn't in it, man.
Well, first and foremost, I thought I was going to be in the documentary at first until I started talking to that director. I think her name is Stapleton. I don't know her name. I don't know, man. Me and 50 talked like 45 minutes. The producers had been calling me and everything. So this one night, 50 called me up and, they got him on the phone, man. He was just talking. We was talking about old time, sit down with, you know what I'm saying? So the whole thing about why I'm not in the thing, the lady was talking greasy to me. She had no right to talk greasy to me. And then she told me that 50 didn't have the power to do anything, but they using his name to push the whole documentary. And that's what it was about.
Jaguar Wright went even harder, calling it a mockumentary, saying most of what aired was old info she'd already been screaming for years while the real bombs stayed untouched. And she claims 50 isn't trying to clean up the industry. He's trying to reshuffle power, remove Diddy and Jay, and slide into that throne himself. And people started side-eyeing his tweet after the conviction about being available for bookings, because it sounded real replacement-ready.
And this is why this documentary It is I'm not calling it a documentary. I'm calling it a mockumentary. That's what I call it.
No, that's Spinal Tap.
I call it a mockumentary. I feel like this whole thing is mocking me. That's how I feel about it. It's wild. But go ahead.
Yeah. Was there anything at all that you were watching this documentary that was new information to you?
New?
Yes.
No.
From the history of Puff, him coming up, anything new?
No. There was nothing new for me.
Then Clive Davis' name came up. And without Clive, there is no bad boy, period, because he met Diddy before fame, funded him early, backed him early, even held majority control at one point. Yet in a so-called reckoning, he barely got screen time, and Jaguar calling him the devil incarnate never aired. Because once you pull Clive into it, you're talking executives, lawyers, gatekeepers, not just artists.
A lot of people are curious about the status of P. Diddy.
Status of what?
P. Diddy. Diddy.
Like Puffy. The status of Puffy.
What do you make of that situation? All right. No comment from Clive Davis.
Next up, Stevie J, who wasn't just around but inside producing hits, living at Star Island, knowing who came and what went down. And when the feds showed up, he stayed 10 toes defending Diddy, even as lawsuits allegedly named him.
You're hanging out with Diddy in his mansion in Miami, and Homeland Security rushes in while you're there.
While I'm there, Dolo.
You're there by yourself.
Yeah. With the, he has some employees there. And
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So suddenly there's red dots all over your shirt.
Yeah. I'm like, damn, this is crazy.
Allegations say he helped coordinate escorts for freak-off nights. Claims of leaked footage followed. Yet he stayed loyal, and that kind of loyalty got folks asking if it's friendship, fear, or mutual dirt keeping him locked in.
Hopefully the truth will prevail.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we got to just see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I'm never going to stop being there for someone I consider to be a friend to me.
As you should.
I'm not going to turn my back, and it's like I've been scrutinized just by being a friend. I guess someone never had a true friend before.
Then there's Usher, who lived with Diddy as a teenager. Old interviews resurfacing where he said what he saw was curious. Later saying he'd never let his own kids experience that. Words that sounded like jokes back then, but feel like regret now.
I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
Did you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
And that leads straight to Justin Bieber, introduced to Diddy at 13, with old clips of Diddy bragging about having 48 hours with him, and saying it couldn't be discussed.
Yo, Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So
back then it was brushed off. Today it sounds dark when you line it up with Justin later breaking down about betrayal, isolation, and cutting off everyone tied to his early career. And when Jaguar says footage exists. Gene says celebrities were protected, and Katt says names were deleted. It's clear this was never the full reckoning, just the part they thought we could stomach. So who really got protected? Who's next to fall? Was this exposure or a cover-up? Argue it out in the comments, like it, subscribe, and stay locked in, because this story ain't over.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Justin Bieber unfollowed his former manager, Scooter Braun, on Instagram, which sounds really minor.
It sounds sort of very high school.
But it is a big deal, especially for celebrities. And then the really surprising thing is after Justin did that, Scooter deactivated his entire Instagram account.